Hi, this is the video for my book jacket assignment. And yeah, this is my book jacket. This is the front cover. This is the spine. I think it's this way. No, the other way. Yes. This is the spine, and then this is the back cover. And the story that I chose is obviously, as you can see, The Vault. And I specifically chose this story because I thought that it would give me the most creative freedom compared to the other short stories. The Vault is definitely one of the longer short stories that we've read. And since it's longer, I found that it had more detail and more things going on in that story compared to the other stories. So I just believed actually that it would just give me more creative freedom and I'd be able to create a more creative book cover for my book jacket. So anyway, the target audience for my book jacket is teenagers, more specifically 12 to 14-year-olds. And I specifically chose this category of people of age, this age group, this specific age group, because in this story, it involves murder and it involves death, right? But the death part of it, they just talk about death, and murder, they hint at murder towards the end. So basically, this story doesn't really have much of like inappropriate or like sensitive content in it. It only talks about death and it hints madly at murder. Obviously, in the end, when the parents, get killed by the lions, well, hinted of getting killed by the lions, right? So I would say this would be more for like the younger group of teenagers since it's not too explicit, but also yeah, it doesn't talk too much. It doesn't talk too much in depth of like gore and murder and death to be in the older age groups. So obviously I chose 12, between the ages of 12 and 14. Okay, so for the actual book cover, why did I use the images that I did and what are the images that I did? So basically, this is the image that I chose. And I specifically chose this image because this is what I found summarized most of the story, right? I wanted a book cover that would summarize the story pretty well and would just give the reader a pretty good image of what is the story, you know? So, yeah, just this whole cover has a lot of symbolism and it's just pretty clear on the main the main themes of this story. So, um this goes so I go more so wait, excuse me. Okay. So the image, this whole image was carefully planned out and everything in here was intentionally planned out. So let's start with the overall layout of the book cover. So for this book cover, right? The layout of the pair of like the position of each of the main characters was not by accident. I put the parents in the house on purpose and put them and then drew them in a smaller scale than the children who obviously look bigger than the parents on purpose because just to show control. In the story, the parents really focus on proving their children, they're very immature children, on who has control and authority in this house, right? Like who has control over the house and who is the authority, who has the control. And so that's why the parents are in the house, right? They think they have control in the house, but in reality, the children have more control in the house and over their parents in general. And that is why they are placed above their parents to show authority, control, and that is why their hand is on top of the house to show that they have control over their house and therefore control of their parents because their parents rely on the house and they also live in this house. And also, I specifically placed the parents in the house because I wanted to show that they are trapped in that house. That is basically their own kind of prison that they've built for themselves because they bought this house, right? They bought this house to make their lives easier and to also help raise their children, right? But this house is the source of their problems, basically. It's the source of their problems. It is the reason why their children and them don't really have that child parent connection, right? It is also the reason why they do less parenting, which also contributes to that connection. And it is also the reason why they basically like die in the end. It is just the house. And yeah, I just put them in there to show that they really don't have anywhere to go, and they've basically like trapped themselves. They're trapped in this house. They've trapped themselves in this house, which is completely doing the opposite of what it was intended to do. But yeah, other points that I want to highlight in the book besides the overall layout are the colors of this book. So basically, there are main colors that I really focused on when making this book cover, which was blue, orange, yellow, and purple. So they, as you know, colors have meaning, and they make some certain emotions and moods like surge, like they bring out certain moods and atmospheres and certain emotions out of people and readers when they see them. Right, so I use that to my advantage, and I purposely put a bunch of colors in certain spots with different meanings. Let's start with orange and yellow. So orange and yellow in this cover convey the meaning of hot, happiness, but also creativity. And I put them in the spots of the house and also the lions. Because the lions and the house, so that this part of the house is supposed to represent the nursery, right? And the lions are technically part of the nursery, and the reason why they are specifically that color is because they represent the creativity that came from the children's mind, right? Also, the orangeness, the orangeness of this house, aka nursery, represents how hot it is, how real it feels. When, like in the story, George described how the sun was so super scorching hot, right? This represents this heat. And then also it represents happiness because, since yellow represents happiness, I made the lines like an orangey yellow. So orange for creativity, but also yellow for happiness, because the lions are the source of happiness for the children. This is what the children are. This is what the children love. This is where the children find their happiness and life from. This is where they find their enjoyment from. And also the house, obviously, this part of the house, so the nursery, is also where they find their enjoyment from, their joy from. And that is why it's orange and yellow. The other color that I really focused on was blue. And I put blue specifically on the parents, so the parents' clothes are very blue. Their jeans, their shirts and stuff. And then I also put blue in the face of the children, on the faces of the children. So the blues that I put in those two different spots, so on the parents and on the children, have two completely different meanings. So for the parents, I put blue on them because blue really represents loyalty and trust, but it also represents authority, which is something that the parents have been really trying to prove to the children, like I said before, throughout the story. Like, hey, we are the authority, we are your parents, and we decide what is best for you and what you get to do, right? And that is why the parents are wearing blue in the cover, just to show the authority and the fact that they are the parents and they make the decisions. The reason why the kids have blue all over their faces, and specifically in their eyes, I made sure that their eye color was specifically blue. That it was very intentional, because to show their coldness towards their parents. As they look down on their parents, they show their coldness towards them. They show how little they care about their parents and how little their connection is, like how little their connection is between each other. You know, how minimal the relationship is, right? And also I put the blue there on their faces, obviously for also coldness, but also to give that sense of mystery, you know, for the children. The other color also was this light purple or light lavender, light violet, whatever you call it. I put this on a pile of stuff you can see here. And this pile of stuff is actually also very specific. This pile of stuff actually represents all of the stuff that the kids have imagined before they had their obsession with Africa. So in the story, in the text, it states that they used to imagine Pegasus flying up in the air and Alice in Wonderland stuff and Aladdin and other things. You know, in this pile there are different items that they stated in there. So those are little Pegasus toys. This is the genie bottle from Aladdin. This is also the magic carpet from Aladdin. This is a teacup, from Alice in Wonderland, and there's many others. And yeah, this is basically this whole pile basically is the foundational ground for like the house and the parents. You know, it keeps them up. It's the foundation for the parents. It's what holds them up, you know? It's what supports them. Because the parents throughout the story, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little off track here, but the parents in the story, they really expect their kids to be very innocent and very, you know, imaginative and imagine all of these things. This pile of stuff represents their expectations for their children, how they perceive their children, or how they perceive, like how they believe their children should be and how they should act and what they should imagine, how their minds should be. So this is what this pile represents that they're standing on. But also the color of this pile of stuff, which is the light lavender, represents innocence. It represents innocence, it represents purity, and it represents imagination, right? So this whole thing represents the imagination that the children used to have, like the abundance of imagination the children used to have before the obsession with Africa. It shows that they were really pure, they were very innocent, you know. It's very classic, very cliche for children, very normal actually, very common for children to be obsessed with fairy tales and of stories and things, and imagine and visualize a bunch of scenarios in their minds. And this represents their innocence, their purity, you know, before Africa and the whole talk of death and lions and stuff. Oh, besides colors, there are also other parts of the book jacket that I have included. So there are little extras like the logo here. This logo, which also shows up here, is the publisher logo. And the logo of the publisher, which is LGH, actually stands for Lydia George Hadley. Hadley. Is that her last name? Hadley. I purposely made them the publisher because, like I said again and again, throughout the story, the parents really try to showcase their authority and their control in the house to the children. And the fact that they're the publishers kind of shows that control that they've been wanting to have, and they are the decision makers, you know. And then another very actually interesting extra Easter egg that I put in here is the price. Can you see that? I'm pretty sure you can. The price tag on here. This is very intentional. I chose this specific number, these specific numbers, this specific price on purpose. Okay, it's $16.23, okay, in Canadian. And this price obviously was not a coincidence. It is actually the numerical value of the first letter of the names of the children. So let me just explain it in more simpler words in a clearer format. So basically, both numbers 16 and 23 represent the first letter of Peter and Wendy's names. So P for Peter, right? P equals 16 in the number code thing, right? So yeah, so that's the first number. P equals 16. And then W for Wendy represents 23 in the numerical alphabetical code. So that's why the price is 1623. And I also put it specifically in the order 1623.23 because I'm pretty sure Peter is the older child between him and Wendy. So 16 came first, and then 23 came afterwards, 16.23. So that is why it is in that order, and that is why it is that specifically that price, and I think that is really cool. And very genius, actually, very creative. But yeah, these are all the little things that I've included in the book, on the book jacket, actually, that are little Easter eggs and little symbolisms that I really thought through. Oh, and also, I forgot to mention, the title. The title's font is very also intentional, like everything else. I chose a font that looked very futuristic because the story is obviously set in the future. And when I was drawing this, I really thought that the book cover doesn't really show the futuristic vibe of the story. The fact that the story is set in the future, I thought that I didn't really showcase that in the book cover, so I decided to showcase it in the title, because after the book cover, the title's probably the second thing that the readers look at. So after the book cover, they look at the title to see what the story is called, to get a hint of what the story is about. So yeah, that's why it is a futuristic font, really weird font. Showcase that. Yeah. So, besides all these tiny little details, let's move on. Okay, I'm done with the little tiny detail portion of this presentation. So let's move on to the quotes that I've chosen. These quotes. Why did I choose these quotes? These are the quotes that I chose. These two. And I specifically chose these quotes because they get the job done. Honestly, they just get the job done. The point of the summary and the back cover and putting these quotes in the first place is to spark curiosity within the reader. And these two quotes do the job perfectly, honestly. Like, for example, "They've just been eating," said Lydia. "I don't know what." That sentence, that quote, puts questions within the reader. Potential questions like, who is they? Who is actually eating? And why are they eating? Like, why are they just eating the whole time? Like, why is it specifically just eating? And also, what is the thing that they're eating? You have this quote embedded, like, 3 questions within the reader. And now they have this curiosity for the book. The other quote, which was, they were awfully young, Wendy and Peter, for death thoughts. That also instills curiosity within the reader. And it also, besides curiosity, instills the feeling of, like, a very unsettling feeling, a very suspenseful feeling, a very unsettling feeling, like, this is a little wrong feeling, right? Like, why are the kids having death thoughts? How old are the kids for them to have death thoughts? Why are they having death thoughts? How did they even start having death thoughts? When did it happen? What are the death thoughts specifically that they're thinking of? What will happen afterwards? So yeah, it puts, these 2 quotes put in a bunch of curiosity in the reader and a bunch of these questions within the reader, and it makes them want to pick up the book, and it makes them want to pick up the book even more, because the only way they can answer all of these questions and curiosity, the only way they can satisfy their curiosity, actually, is by reading the book, which, yeah, just helps it settle even more. But yeah, that is basically my book jacket. I'm actually really happy with this. I'm also especially really happy with how the kids turned out, how the mood they create by just being there and the way they look. I was honestly really excited to draw the kids. I find that the kids are really like interesting, and I just the way I drew their expressions matches what I was thinking in my mind and really conveys the emotion and the mood that I was trying to express through them. You know, it shows the reader the side of them that you're probably going to feel in the story. The sense of coldness and like smartness, cleverness, sneaky cleverness, but also like bad cleverness. But yeah, I'm really happy with the overall book jacket. I'm really proud of the way the kids turned out. I'm also quite proud of the back. In my opinion, this looks like it could be kind of a published book. It really looks like it's a published book. Like I have a graphic novel right here, and this was actually the reference for the back of this book. And as you can see, it looks pretty similar. So I'm really proud of that as well. The back doesn't look too cluttered, but it also doesn't look too empty as well. I feel like it's pretty balanced. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. But of course, there are some things that I'm obviously not happy with, and I would want to alter. Um, if I could do this all over again, like it's just a bunch of tiny things that I personally would change as an artist, you know, because I know a bunch of like color theory stuff and composition, and stuff like this. The top of this, I would have put a gradient for more contrast, or and more like to occupy more space and make the space appear more busy. Because in my opinion, this is a lot of empty space that could have been well utilized, um, and you know added more interest. But now it's just kind of just blank, and I really don't like that. And also, I would have changed the position of the position of the author on this book cover. I would have put it down here instead, because it's just taking up a little bit too much space. It's squishing the title, which is the most, in my opinion, arguably the most important thing of this book besides the cover, right? Well, the people need to see the title clearly, and the title needs to be big for that to happen, right? But since the author's name is in this specific position, it is not very, it just squishes the title, makes it look smaller and less appealing, and makes it pop out less. And I would have loved to put it here, but I kind of forgot about it. But yeah, if I could redo this, especially the title, I would have definitely made the title bigger and moved the author's name down here somewhere. It would have looked way more professional, and also made the title pop better and just make the book more attractive. But yeah, that is the end of my presentation. Sorry it was a little bit long, but I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.